Good evening. Hand today is pocket nines. This is a six-handed table. I don't normally play six-handed, but we'll go ahead and try to analyze this hand anyways. So under the gun, I have 8 hands on him, playing 25% VPIP, 0% preflop raise. Basically, this is his first preflop raise, I believe. Yep, 0 out of 5. Comes in with for a bet of 3.5. It's actually a fairly large size. What I imagine here, this is a 4 NL game, so it's not a super big table, uh, super large stacks. I should say the money doesn't mean a whole lot. So I think under the gun typically tends to have a tighter range than, say if he opened from mid position, cutoff, or button. I think he's probably looking at something fairly tight here. We'll get rid of the weakest pocket pair here. So let's say 2 to 5s. I do think some players do have this suited connectors. I think that's pretty tight at 11.3% under the gun. Not knowing a whole lot about this player, I think that's probably a pretty tight range. Now it's on me. If I raise, if I 3-bet, I do think he's going to probably fold out some of these weaker aces. Let's say ace 10. He does it with ace 10. He'll probably fold out like the ace 10, ace jack, maybe these connectors, maybe these mid pairs. I don't think I'm getting a huge number of folds because he is so tight. I don't have a lot of hands on any of these players, and really the only player that seems overly loose is this player with 39% VPIP. But again, that's only over about 34 hands. I think there's reasons to raise. I think there's reasons to call. So 3-bet I think is pretty tight 3-bet range versus under the gun, but I think that's probably appropriate. And then you kind of have a calling range where we're okay. We only have one player to dodge, and then we'll have position throughout the hand. So I think that's going to probably be our calling range here. I did call, and then big blind called. Oh man. Okay, so let's see if we can undo this. All right, so that was pre-flop raiser, and then that's me. And now we've got the caller. He could really have anything, but you have a tight player. I'm not gonna get too crazy with him. I will say he'll probably raise kings plus ace king because that's what most players do. He is playing 21-15, so not horribly loose or tight. I think he's probably playing speculative hands. Maybe like the king 10, maybe these suited connectors. Maybe not. I mean, maybe he has one gappers. Probably broadways. Offsuit, since he's out of position, probably isn't going to be playing as many. So maybe something like that. We'll play suited. All the pocket pairs. We'll keep those one gappers. So I believe we now take the flop. So let's get my hand here. We're at 6.18% and 82 combos. And the board comes out Jack 8-6. So Jack of diamonds, 8 of clubs, 6 of hearts. That board doesn't, I don't think, change a whole lot. It does hit us because we have calling ranges that will hit this mid-range hands. It could hit villain 3. I think it's a little less likely that it hits villain 4, but villain 4 could also have over pairs, could have trips with jacks, maybe top pair. So top pair plus with some over pairs and so forth. So villain 3 checks. I've got no reason to suspect he would lead out anyways. Villain 4 checks, and that's kind of interesting because he has the lead and he could have fired out a bet. Question is he checking here because he's got a massive card, and this is somewhat of a dry board? I mean, 9-10 gives an open-ended straight draw, but that's only a few combos. I mean, if you look at just my straight draw, that's 4 combos out of a total of 69 combos that I started with in my range, or 82 combos that I started with in my range. There's 4 of them out there, so it's pretty small that I have that. Pretty small that he has that. Maybe I have 9-7. This guy could have 9-7. That's a possibility. So when we think about what kind of hands is he going to check, I think he could check, some of these overpairs. The non, I'm going to say queens, kings, aces. I think he could check some sets. Because he's hoping to play back, to get people to play back at. I think even with his top pair, I think maybe ace jack could check. King jack, queen jack, jack 10. I think he's reasonable to bet to try to get some people to call. But then queen jack, I mean, he's got a blocker with the queen for the open end straight draw. So we'll say kind of the check is ace jack. I think he could reasonably check that, and then he's gonna probably check these weaker cards. But pocket pair below the second card, I think he could reasonably bet and hope to get a fold. Open-ended straight draw, I would assume he would bet. So I kind of think he's checking something like that, which is either pretty polarized. He either doesn't have anything, basically over cards, or he's got a pretty solid hand. So now it's on me, and I think what do we do? I think we could check. I mean, we definitely have position, and you think about if we check, what hands are going to change the boards, change the situation. Definitely an overcard, queen, king, ace is going to be kind of scary for me. A 9, a 10 could be somewhat scary if I check, because now that opens up, the possibility of combo draw, a pair with, a straight draw, maybe a gut shot or an open-ended straight draw. 7, 7-5. I think there's a lot of cards that could come that would kind of be scary, and we don't really want to give a free card necessarily, because if we give a check and then all of a sudden he bets, what do we do? What do we do with that? Do we just check? Do we raise? Do we just call? Definitely, we don't want to build a big pot in this situation, but I do think we're going to have to bet to protect. So I think we're going to be betting our top pair hands. I think we bet our sets because it starts to look like 2 people check, and now just an aggressive player is going to bet because both these guys showed weakness. So I think top pair in a set we're going to bet. I think pocket pair below the top card, I think we're justified in just checking here, along with the bottom pair below the second card. Just kind of guards against possibility that the preflop raiser had jack, ace jack type hands. I think we can bet with the open and straight draw, and then I think we kind of bet with our 2-card backdoor draws. I think just to kind of take advantage of that spot. So you're looking at 26 to 18%. We're betting about 45% of the time, which I think is fine. So what do? I do bet. I bet half pot, which I think is okay. I mean, if they didn't hit, they're just going to fold for it. If they have a suspicion that, I might be trying to steal it, they're going to call. That's a size that encourages a call, maybe with, let's say, an ace, ace 2, ace 3, ace 4, ace 5, because they hold an ace and so forth. So I bet, and villain 3 calls. And now villain 3, I think, has some, maybe these pocket pair below the top card, maybe the middle pair, because again, everyone folded. 7, I think 7's going to be less likely. I think open-ended straight draw, gut shot might call. So I think we're looking at something like that. Definitely a pair. I don't think he's going to have a huge number of draws in his range right now. So I think that's his call, and this player folded. So I think he was part of the no-made hand. Maybe ace king, ace queen, king queen. I think he could have bet those. Probably should have bet those. So we're going to go to the turn. So here's my hand. So that was my flop range. I had 44.9%, 31 combos passed through. his range is this. A check called, so it's 46.6%, and he has 193 combos. Still has a ton of combos, and right now I'm in theory in the lead. So Nine of Hearts comes out. I think that's one of those cards where it's like, I think it gives somebody a reason to call. So if they had a 10, they now have an open-ended straight draw. If they called with, let's say, Queen 9 or 8-9, they're going to have two. So if they call with Queen 9, they've got, they've now hit a pair with a gut shot. They may call 2 hearts on the board. If they have a heart, maybe if they called with Jack Queen of Hearts, they're going to call with top pair heart draw, without a doubt. So what does he do? He checks, and I think he's going to check probably everything here. I don't think he's planning to bet. If that improved him in any way, he's going to. I think he's just going to check, and you can see based on the equities, it does. So my equity went from like 57% down to 46.2 because that really does help his range. Now, we have to think about what are we going to bet here. I think there are hands that are going to call, so I kind of feel like we're going to be betting our sets, and probably our flush draws. I think our straight draws may put too much. No, I think open-ended straight draw and a flush draw. So gut shots, I think we're going to check. Over cards, I think with the gut shots, it's too likely that he's calling with a pair and he'll just go ahead and continue calling down. Whereas with the sets, we're going to get value from them. We're hoping to get 3 streets of value, especially if we get like a 2 or a 3 coming down. The only hand, when you think about hands that we're worried about is Queen 10. We're worried about 10-7. And how likely are those to actually have that? Queen 10 could be in his range, and would he call with a gut shot? Maybe. Definitely maybe. So what do? I bet 11. I think this is where I probably could have gone a little bit larger. Instead of betting 11, maybe going to 16, 15. Applies a little bit more pressure, makes him think about it. And it's a big stack. We do have to consider that. And if I bet 15 and he calls, now we're in a situation where I could theoretically bet pot or overbet, shove all in and probably get paid. Well, hope to get paid anyways by a weaker hand, maybe like an ace jack that says, I think he's trying to get me to fold, so I call with my top pair. So I bet. I think that's going to be my butting hand. Let's get this. So this is 66.7% of my range. I've really narrowed it down to 20 hands. I've got draws and I've got that set. And I think that's pretty good distribution, and he just calls. So I think here he's going to call with the flush draw, probably with the open-ended straight draw. I think he calls with top pair plus. I think the straight might actually check raise this. Minus the, Queen 10 of Hearts. I think Queen 10 of Hearts could raise. Would he raise that? Yeah, Queen 10's just going to check. I think straight's going to call. What about a set? I don't know. I kind of expect a set to bet here to check raise it. I expect 2 pair to check raise, so I'm kind of thinking over pair and top pair is what we're looking at along with those draws. Because I kind of expect check raises to come from the straights because they might be a little bit worried about the heart. And it just kind of depends on the player. So he's got 68.7. He's got 57 combos in his range. Definitely cut it down. And then the river card's the Queen of Clubs. And that's probably a really bad card for me because now it gives 4 to a straight. So you can see that, I'm ahead 62%. Queen of Clubs, I should still be ahead. So 61.3 and 38. Whoops, 38.7. So he checks to me. Now, question is, if I bet, well, who's going to call? 33% chance that he's got a set, a straight. 5% that he or 6% that he has a set. So you're looking at about 40% of the time he's going to beat me if I bet if I've got a set. So I'm kind of thinking like a straight. Yeah, I can bet for value. I'm hoping to get called. Probably split the pot. Maybe hoping that he's going to think I'm bluffing. I think that's going to be the only hand that I try to bet. He's got 13% chance that he's going to fold. Maybe a middle pair. Does he fold? Maybe. I think two pairs going to call. Set's going to call. That's 57% of the time. So 40% he's going to call, and then maybe even the middle pair might still call if he doesn't believe me. Like the ace jack king jack, I think he could. I think those hands might even call. And it kind of depends on what I do. Even is this a player that's going to call a overbet shove because he thinks I'm bluffing, or see a player that's going to recognize that maybe I actually have a 10 and I'm hoping that a bad player calls. This is 4NL, so I'm going to assume that he might call with the middle pair plus, and that kind of makes a difference. So set and straight, those two hands are going to beat my set. If I have any set. So I kind of think, with sets and two pair, I'm going to just be checking, and maybe I can bet with I could turn a middle pair into a bluff, but middle pair kind of has some showdown value. If I have ace jack, he may have king jack, and I take it down. So I don't know if there's any value to betting other than if I have the straight at this point, because he may just be only calling with the straight and may fold everything else. So we'll see. I just checked. I think I'm okay with the check, given my hand. I remember I had the set, so I'm okay with that. And then he shows 10 jack, shows the 10 jack offsuit. I didn't have that in his range, but if we add it, you can see that it becomes more likely that he has a straight. So kind of make a note that he will call, that he is a player that can call with the jack 10 off. And then, let's look at his hands with jack 10 off. He did hit top pair with the 10, and then he got open-ended straight draw, so he's going to top pair with the open-ender, calls again, and then he just hits it. So I can't really complain about how I played. Maybe I bet a little bit more on the turn. I would have lost a little bit more, but we bet the flop. He was calling with worse. We bet the turn. He's calling with worse. But he did have the draw. But he was an underdog. He needed a catch to beat me. All right. So here's the saying. I don't think I'd do much differently here. So if you like this saying, look tomorrow for another.